Tenere. A name that's synonymous with rallying and adventure, a name that stands for desert and solitude in the language of the North African Tuaregs, a name that became a legend in the two-wheeled enthusiast world, and the Yamaha delivered a couple years ago when they released the 700.
And it was cheap, for a new bike, that is. But since then, things have changed. The cheap and cheerful Tenere got more and more expensive, but people's appetites for adventure got bigger and bigger, and so the common folk was left without a choice, really.
Or was he? What if the best Tenere for budget adventuring has actually been on the market for over 10 years and cost a fraction of the price of the new 700?
This is the XT660Z, and its DNA is rooted in the word adventure. ADV bikes have slowly turned into Starbucks grabbers in the past few years. We want it to look like it could conquer Everest, but what we're actually doing is going to the cinema to see the movie Everest.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Different needs in different times. The Tenere does an acceptable job at carving the tarmac. But acceptable is the highest grade it can get, and it all starts with the engine. The single-cylinder 660cc unit produces about 48 horsepower.
And that means it's going nowhere fast. Look, it can feel like a bit of a dog sometimes. Sure, you can overtake and jump on a highway, but you'll need to give it quite some time to accelerate. For a single cylinder, the lower half of the RPM range is surprisingly smooth.
That's until you hit the 4K mark and the bars start pleasuring your palms better than an adult toy can. I know it's a big thumper, I get that. But for a motorcycle, on the tarmac, the engine was probably not the best choice by Yamaha.
That being said, the handling surprised me a bit. It should feel like a big, fat cow that will battle you when leaning into a corner, but it doesn't. It's actually surprisingly flickable.
On the move, it hides its weight beautifully. You can enjoy a twisty road on this, there's nothing stopping you.
Well, actually, there kind of is one thing, and that is speed. Look, the Tenere handles well at a moderate, relaxing pace. Really well, in fact. But you can't push it to go quicker, not even a little bit.
And it's all because of its suspension. On the good side, it sucks in potholes like they're not even there, but the forks dive and bounce around a lot under braking on the street. Once you try to push it a little more spiritedly into a corner, the front gets all wallowy and its confidence disappears quicker than a 10-year-old's when being told no by their school crush.
So overall, the Tenere gets an acceptable in the on-road department. Really, the engine was never meant to do this, and neither were the front forks. But the Tenere is never built with the street in mind. I realize it's like me complaining about a Hummer stocking at the Nürburgring. Sure, it's the truth, but I'm completely missing the point.
Because the real environment for the Tenere is here, down and dirty, playing off the beaten path. Where the suspensions let the bike down on the road, here they really shine. For most riders, this will be more than enough, sucking in bumps and holes like they're not even there. It's not for the aggressive riders, since they will bottom out, but people buying these motorcycles are not racers. They are people who want to travel the world, enjoy it in some shade of comfort, and the Tenere delivers that beautifully.
Then there is its weight. When moving, it hides it beautifully. And if all goes well off-road, you are constantly moving.
The problem is when you arrive to an unplanned stop and you need to lift the bike up. Let's not beat around the bush. You will struggle to lift this up just like any other big ADV pig.
And the fuel tank is nice and high up on the bike, making lifting it up just a tad more difficult.
But if you are moving and if you want to stop, plan this time. The dual front Brembo calipers will help it. The brakes themselves actually catch really well, inspire confidence, and off the road I never had to use more than one finger to pull the lever in. Overall, for the money, I cannot fault the braking system too much. Would ABS have been nice? Yeah, yes it would. But technology is not this bike's strong point, as you might imagine.
Unfortunately, the Tenere does have one big problem when it comes to riding off-road. Well, you could say it's my problem, not the bike's, but I'm talking about the seat height. Look, it's tall. It's really tall. The soft suspension helps once you sit on it, but there's no way around it.
I'm 172 centimeters tall, and if I didn't have plenty of experience with tall motorcycles and dirt bikes, I would not be having so much fun as I currently am. And also when talking about ergonomics, the foot pegs are acceptable for sitting down, but are downright sketchy for riding with the butt of the saddle. They are rubber, which hold your feet just as well as a bar of soap would.
And they are also not wide enough, with the tank forcing your feet outward, leaving you with a slightly uncomfortable position to where you constantly feel like your feet are going to slip off. I do want to be fair. This issue is easily fixable with aftermarket pegs, but just because an issue is fixable doesn't mean it's still not an issue.
If Yamaha were to announce this bike as a new model in 2022, I would believe them just by looking at it. I have a bit of a guilty pleasure towards this design. I think it looks aggressive, ready to take on the desert. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many deserts you cross, it matters how many deserts it looks like your bike could cross. And in this criteria, the Tenere scores highly. Look, at the end of the day, the 660 Tenere is just an average bike. It does nothing exceptionally. It doesn't excel in one way or another. I simply can't see it as an alternative to the 700. It's just not as rounded, nowhere near that. And that's actually okay, because you're not paying 700 money. You're paying between a third and a half. Is this at least half the bike the Tenere 700 is? Hell yeah.
The Tenere 660 has nothing special going for it. It's a simple bike, just the bare bones necessary electronics that you need, nothing you don't.
A simple thumper engine that has been tried and tested, a parts catalog that is shared with other popular models. This can be a perfect, true around-the-world bike. Because it's hard to find a motorcycle that's fairly new, not complicated, and really popular.
Because if your plan is to travel the globe, that's what you need.
And the Tenere not only could do it, but it has actually done it already, multiple times.
Hush, don't tell me what's going on. Hush, don't tell me what's going wrong. Don't make me a victim, please.
So you see, in a world of electronics and complications, the 660 Tenere is a throwback to a time when things were simpler. And sometimes simple is the right way to go.